All right, we're back and we're here this week to talk about Oklahoma versus Houston. Talk about what we saw last week in Temple and how Oklahoma can carry some of that over, and our games of the week and what we think are going to happen there. So, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, especially if you are new to the channel. Over 64% of you guys that watch the channel are not subscribed. So make sure you check that little box down there. Make sure you say it says subscribed for you, and let's jump right into it. All right, so we got some people already in the chat today. As always, jump in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what you guys think about the upcoming game this weekend because it's going to be beautiful for kickoff. Have y'all seen the weather? 80 degrees at kickoff. I was talking about this with my mom on the way into the game last week. There's a good chance we might not see a 100-degree game in the month of September. There's a good chance of that happening. I would say the chances of us having a 90-degree game, they're also pretty low. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're enjoying the weather because this is rare September weather for us. 80 degrees at kickoff. Got to love it. All right. It's Laylub in the chat. Says Boomer Sooners got the notifications on. Yes, keep those notifications on so that you guys can see the Oklahoma content that we're putting out. Not as much on the recruiting trail going on right now, but definitely a lot of stuff from what we're seeing in the games and everything going on game week. Brian, yeah, Bill, listen, we need the O-line to play a little bit better than they did last week. I think you'll see that as the offense opens up. We'll talk Branson Hickman here in a little bit. What's up? Everybody's asking if Hickman's going to play. Okay, you know what? Let's just jump into will Hickman play. This is the question everybody wants to talk about. So, everybody heard from Brent Venables in the press conference. This is not breaking news at all, but everybody heard him say, or well, if you didn't, you obviously don't watch those press conferences, that he looked good in practice, but he didn't necessarily say that he was practicing. So here's my opinion and take on this. You shouldn't need Branson Hickman to beat Houston. You really shouldn't. My opinion and take is you need to find out who your number 2 center is behind Hickman this week, whether that's Josh Bates or Hatchett or even Troy Everett. You need to find out who's going to be that dude for you. And I clearly think you should roll with one of those 3 or let all 3 kind of cycle in and out. Not sure if Everett's healthy enough to play yet, but Oklahoma needs to do something like that to be able to figure this situation out. So if I look at it, I think you need to start the game with Josh Bates. He's been here the longest. He should know the system. I understand he was banged up last week, but this is Josh Bates' time to shine. We even heard in the fall that he was pushing Hickman for that starting spot. So I want to see Josh Bates out there. I want to see what he's capable of doing, and I want to see if he's able to run this offense. The other reason why I think it's important to go ahead and establish the number 2 guy at the center position is because you got 4 guys that can play that position. And if you guys have watched any of my videos this past week, I've talked about the importance of making sure that you can disperse those guys out to the guard positions as well, because all of them outside of Hickman are versatile guys that can play at left or right guard. And right now, that left guard spot's up for grabs. Now, if you guys know me, you know that I am in favor of starting Heath Ozida at left guard. And I've actually been calling for EPL to be on the 2 deep there, especially what we saw against Temple. And I know a lot of people are going to say it's against the backups. I don't care. From what we saw against Temple, EPL needs to have opportunities, and he has the athleticism to be a great guard for us in the coming years. And I think putting him in the 2 deep is only going to help him grow. Now, understanding that when you get into SEC play, you might have to turn to a more experienced guy. So if that means Josh Bates wins the backup center role, you can solidify Gary and Hatchett at left guard and maybe put Troy Everett at right guard or vice versa, whatever that looks like, right? Then you know you have depth at a guard position, but you also have depth at a center position, knowing either one of those guys can play that for you. So I think there's some importance there, and I think that is something Oklahoma needs to find out this weekend. Somebody says, what's up about Isaiah Autry? Why didn't he play? I mean, the big thing is if you're Oklahoma, you can only play so many guys, right? And I think, you have to balance. Like, I think this week we're going to see a completely different set of freshmen play than what we saw last week, outside of the freshmen that really excelled last week. The big thing is you got to keep some of those senior guys in there as well because you want the experience. So Isaiah will get to run here in the next 2 weeks. The question is, how does he look when he gets those opportunities? Man hit a growth spurt when he got to Oklahoma. I'm not sure if y'all have heard about that, but I think he's like, and Mr. Autry, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but so you have to shoot me a text or DM. But I think he's 6'7" or 6'8" now, and I think he's like 320 or 330 pounds now. So, yeah, it's a big deal. All right, what's up? What's up? No, he is not hurt. Yes, Lori, I'm glad we have a kicker. All right. So we're going to stay on the topic of offensive linemen. Bill here, he agrees with the number 2 center. All right. There is a potential opportunity we see Jake Taylor at right tackle this week. And right tackle has been everybody's position of focus going into Houston because of how Spencer Brown was getting beat against Temple. I did think we saw some good things from Spencer Brown, but I think Sooner Nation and Bill Beatonbow probably feel a little bit better if it's Jake Taylor at right tackle. I said this earlier in the week. Your offensive line needs to look something like this. Branson Hickman at center, Fabichi Wewu at right guard, Jake Taylor at right tackle, Hito Zaida at left guard, and then Jacob Sexton at left tackle. From there, Tarquin can be a swing tackle. He can play on the left or the right side, which to have that luxury, a guy of Tarquin's capability, that should give Oklahoma fans a huge boost of confidence. But additionally, Spencer Brown is right next to Tarquin on the 2 deep, meaning that if Tarquin has to step in for, let's say, Jake Taylor, and then Jacob Sexton goes down, Spencer Brown can step in as well. And if you only have to play Spencer Brown, 20, 10, 15, 20 snaps a game, you're probably going to see a little bit better production out of him, and you're going to feel a little bit better about that situation. Let me just start by saying this. This is not a Spencer Brown bashing time. Spencer Brown has all of the capabilities in the world to be an all-level tackle. His athleticism is like Anton Harrison. Dude is talented. The thing with Spencer Brown is he really needs another year with Bill Beatonbow. He needs 2 years of Bill Beatonbow, and he needs to harness that athleticism to be what Anton Harrison was. So for Spencer Brown, I think just not having enough eligibility, because I think he's only got 1 year left, I think that just hurts him in the long run. I think this staff really wants him to get the run so that he can potentially have a shot at an NFL career. I just think he needs another year with Bill Beatonbow to develop. And you never know. Maybe he gets it in the middle of the season. Like, sometimes just getting out there in these game reps, being in the system with Bill Beatonbow real time, maybe that's all it takes for a guy like Spencer Brown to make it click. And remember, that was the first game for Oklahoma. There's a lot of rust, and I don't care if they had fall practices in the summer or in the spring. Like, they had rust. It's as simple as that. Like, they're going to work that off throughout the season. This offensive line is going to be better. You're not going to hear anybody. Okay, you're definitely not going to hear me bash the offensive line. If these same questions pop up at the end of the season, then we can have a conversation. But I believe Bill Beatonbow will figure it out. I believe we have enough talented people in that room to put out an offensive line that's going to keep us anywhere in that 25 to 30 sack range to keep us competitive in the SEC with some of the best O-lines in the SEC. All right. So Bill Williams, you want to see a running game. So going into Houston, we already heard from Jackson Arnold, who went on the Paul Feinbaum show, talking about how the playbook is going to open up this week. And I believe as the playbook opens up, that means you're going to see more passes to Andrell Anthony, Deion Burks, and if Nick Anderson is out there on the field, you're going to see passes to Nick Anderson. What does that mean when Jackson Arnold is able to get the ball to those wide receivers? Does anybody know? All right. What that means is it's going to open up the running game because the other team, the defense on the opposite side of you, they have to kind of Now play the guessing game of what you're going to do. And you have enough versatile backs in that backfield to, I mean, you can either ground and pound it with Houston, or if your offensive line can open up holes, Taylor Tatum and Sam Franklin, we've already seen their speed. They can be guys that can get you big chunk plays in the running game. I think as you start to see more consistency in the O-line, and as Jackson Arnold is able to deliver the ball to more of those higher end targets that Oklahoma has, like a Deion Burks or an Andre Anthony, as they get more targets and more receptions in the game, you'll see the running game have a little bit more success. I just want people to remember that. The offense was vanilla last week, and with the passing game being super vanilla and Jackson Arnold trying to get younger guys involved, the running game, I think, hurt in that aspect. That also will help the offensive line a little bit. Once you start running the ball a little bit more, the offensive line will look a lot better, which means maybe the media will just get off of our backs. So what's up, Steven? No, I mean, it's Layla. Like, I don't think it's just those sites that aren't liking Spencer Brown. Like, if you listen to some of my videos from earlier in the week, I kind of agreed. Like, Spencer Brown has a lot of areas to improve, and I think he hurt the team last week. But anybody can hurt the team. Jackson Arnold can hurt the team, right? I think it's a matter of, does Spencer Brown take what happened to him last week, learn from it, and actually improve throughout the season? Again, if Spencer Brown is in your two deep, as an OU fan, you feel good about that situation. Remember, this guy started like 25 games or more in the Big 10. So we know he's talented enough to be a starting offensive lineman. You just need to see him do it in a complex offensive line structure. So going into Houston, what do you guys want to see? So jump in the comments below. Let me know what you guys want to see. Going into the Houston game, I'll tell you what I want to see. I'll give you three things. One, I want to see the defense hold Houston to 10 or less points. I don't care about how many yards they give up. I care about how many points they give up. I want to see the defense go out there, play suffocating defense, and keep Houston outside of the end zone one or less times. 10 points is all you should give Houston. Now, I will say this. I was looking at the lines for this game. They have Oklahoma right now favored by 27.5, and the over-under set at 52.5, meaning Vegas is giving Houston 25 points, saying you still have to cover by 27.5, which if you win by 27.5, you feel pretty good. If you give up 25 points to Houston, you feel kind of bad. I want Oklahoma fans to think about this for a second. If this defense goes out here and holds Houston to, let's just say, 14 or less points, what does the media narrative change to? Additionally, let's compound onto that. They hold the Houston offense to 14 or less points and then hit the over-under, meaning Oklahoma scores 53 points. That means not only did they cover, but they hit the over on the over-under of 52.5, not allowing Houston to score more than 14. What does the media coverage now change to Oklahoma look like? Because last week, I think we saw a change of heart in some guys in the national media, like Joe Klatt. He was on the Colin Cowherd show, and he slipped up. You heard him. He didn't stay on it too long, but he talked about teams he was really impressed with. He said Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, and then he moved on. He went on real quick. Oklahoma almost hit the over-under last week by themselves and only allowed 3 points, and the defense had 6 turnovers. If you go out there and put up a similar performance, but not only cover, but hit the over on the over-under, the national media is going to start looking at Oklahoma a little bit different. The narrative is now going to shift away from Oklahoma's offensive line is bad to, Oklahoma can overcome offensive line issues. Their offense is that good. Because if that happens, Jackson Arnold probably threw for 300 yards. The running backs probably ran for over 125 yards if that happens, right? That means your boys got into the end zone. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, that's got to be the first thing you're looking for. That's what I'm looking for. The defense, be suffocating, do what you did last week, 10 or less points. All right. The second thing that I'm looking for, I want to establish my RB2. Here's what I mean by this. I think we all expect Gavin Sawchuk to be running back one for Oklahoma. I think we all do. The question is, after what we saw last week with Sam Franklin, what we saw from Taylor Tatum, who, true freshman, I think had an exceptional first game for Oklahoma. Then you got Javonte Barnes. We didn't see Caleb Hicks. Who's going to be the guy that steps up in that room and takes the job, right? Taylor Tatum's going to get run. He's going to get the ball in his hands, whether he's RB2 or RB3. You have to. He is versatile. And I saw somebody in the comments earlier talk about this. Because he's a baseball player, he's going to see things a little bit faster. He's going to see things develop faster, and he's going to see things differently. Taylor Tatum is going to be special, guys. I thought for the life of me, this guy would get redshirted after 4 games. I don't. He's going to play probably every single game. Taylor Tatum, I think, is a guy that can catch it out of the backfield. Obviously, he can get you the burst plays. Who's going to be RB2? That's what I want to find out in this game. The third thing that I want to see is I want to see Jackson Arnold throw for 350 or more yards. I do. I think last week was a great start. He threw for 141 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. But I want to see not only him throw in the middle of the field, I want to see him throw more deep passes to Deion Burks or Andrell Anthony, right? I want to see him start to rack up yardage the way Dylan Gabriel would, or Spencer Rattler, or a Caleb Williams, or a Kyler Murray, or a Jalen Hurts, or a Baker Mayfield. I want to start seeing him rack up those kind of yards. Because going into the Tennessee game, I want to leave no questions about my wide receiver core, my quarterback room, or my running back room when it comes to the offense. I will deal with offensive line questions because at the end of the day, I trust Bill Bedenbaugh to figure it out. And as an Oklahoma fan, you guys should trust Bill Bedenbaugh too. All right, let's turn to the chat here because I have kind of abused the chat and not paid attention. All right. You said, I think we ran Sexton at left tackle. Yeah, so Sexton actually got run at left guard and then moved to left tackle later in the game. This was after Hickman got hurt and we had to adjust the offensive line a little bit. Yes, we do have to have some offensive surprises for Tennessee. You do and you don't, right? If you have a damn good offense, top 10 offense in the country, Tennessee's just going to have a hard time stopping it. Any team in the country will have a hard time stopping it. Hence, go back and look at the Georgia game again in the Rose Bowl. Look at the playoff game with Alabama, right? Those were good defenses, but the offense was so good that at some point or another, you can't stop it. The gates will open at some point. And I don't think Tennessee's as good of a defense as either of those two teams were. You mean 3 deep. Taylor and Tark are above him on the depth chart. You're talking about Spencer Brown. Steven, here's what I meant. You start Jake Taylor on the right side. You start Jacob Sexton on the left side. Tarquin is a swing tackle at the 2 deep. But you obviously have to have 2 tackles in your 2 deep. So technically Spencer Brown would be the 2 deep. 2 100-yard rushers. Okay, yeah, if we saw 2 100-yard rushers in this game, you probably know who your running back 1 and your running back 2 is. That actually would be kind of cool to see. Yes, defense needs to keep it going. Dominant D again and win by 30-piece chicken McNugget. I love that. I actually really like that. I might have to start using that. All right. Okay, I'm glad somebody brought this up. Totally forgot it. Latrell McCutcheon. Is his dad going to be in the stands? Because if his dad's in the stands, he might need a police escort because his dad talked a lot of that ish on the Bird app. And Sooner fans have not forgotten because I've seen that stuff pop up a little bit. Let's see here. When does EPL get out? Okay, if EPL gets the jet sweep, yeah, Oklahoma fans might just pull their hair out. I think Oklahoma fans are tired of seeing it. But however, do we count a reverse as the jet sweep? Do we count the reverse as the jet sweep? Because I thought that play last week is going to be in our arsenal a couple times. So I thought it was a very good play. All right. So looking at the Houston game, Houston obviously last week, guys, not very good. Not very good. Lost to, what was it? New Mexico? Was it the Lobos or UNLV or, yeah, whoever they lost to was not a good team. You look at the quarterback play for Houston. They're going to want to do a little bit more of a dual threat quarterback play. I don't know how much they're going to be able to sling the ball around the field, especially with OU secondary. I also wonder if Gentry starts and if Woody gets any playing time this week. If Woody plays, Gentry starts, I think you really start to see what this starting defense is going to look like for Oklahoma. Guys, Houston's offensive line is not very good. Not good at all. Like, it's Dominic Williams and Jaden Jackson. I think somebody was talking about Jaden Jackson earlier in the chat. How many sacks does Oklahoma get in this game? Does anybody know? Anybody want to take a guess? How many sacks does Oklahoma get in this game? Jump in the chat and let me know. Because last week against Temple, you got 6 sacks and you had 9 tackles for loss. You also had 4 forced fumbles. Which, speaking of that, you had 4 forced fumbles last week. This is what I want to tell everybody and how impressive this was. Because I've made mention to this to Jay and Coop and everybody multiple times. Because I've actually went through and I've got a highlight reel of them. I'm going to put them up on a YouTube short. They went through and punched the ball out every single time. This was not the player fell on the ground, the ball popped out. No, like, they went in there and they stripped it or punched the ball out every single time. OU earned every single one of those fumbles. That's impressive. I don't care if it's against Temple or not. That's impressive. Not to mention, OU should have had 3 picks last week because, as some people have made the mention, Billy Bowman's elbow was down. I think it's just a matter of your own opinion. But, yeah, this defense, okay, let's not get off topic. Okay, it's Laleb. He says 8 sacks. Topher says 6. Dominic, you say 6. Bill says 5. It's Laleb says PJ gets 1.5. That's a bold take. That's one that, let's circle back to this one on Sunday and see if that actually came true. Because if that happens, that's PJ's coming out party. Because not only does he have 1.5 sacks, but he probably has at least 2 tackles for loss at that point. Okay. Steven says 9 sacks. Okay. I think Oklahoma probably ends up in the 6 to 7 sack range. And well, actually, hold on. 5 to 6. Reason being, Houston's probably going to play a little bit of max protect. The question is, with the way that this defensive line is built now, how do we play against max protect this year? That's going to be something that I think everybody's going to want to pay attention to. Because if you get matched up with the Big 12 team in the playoffs, that was your kryptonite over the past 2 years. Remember how all the OU fans have complained about how we're not living in the backfield enough, we're not getting the numbers? That's because those teams were playing max protect on you. So let's just say 5 to 6 to be conservative. How many turnovers does Oklahoma get in this game? 6 last week. Technically 7 if you want to count Billy Bowman's, but it does not count officially on the stat sheet. How many turnovers did they get and how many of each turnover? I'm going to say Oklahoma probably gets 3 turnovers. They probably get 1 fumble and 2 picks this week. I have a feeling that Houston's going to try to air it out. They're going to try to test Oklahoma's secondary. They're definitely going to try to test Oklahoma in zone coverage because Oklahoma was not good in zone coverage last year. But remember, if you guys watched my channel when we got Des Malone, you guys understood. When I said when we got Des Malone, I felt like that was Oklahoma fixing their zone coverage issues. Des Malone is a very good corner in zone. He hasn't allowed very many touchdowns. Des is a guy that I think could be a lockdown corner for you for Oklahoma. I think he has 2 years of eligibility left. If he spends 2 years here at Oklahoma, dare I say Malone, call me crazy, bold prediction. He spends this year, next year at Oklahoma. He might be a first-round pick if he replicates the same success he had at San Diego State. And that's because you're playing in the SEC and you're playing way better wide receivers. Call me crazy. Okay, You said 5 is a safe number. Sorry, Topher, that I took your guess. 3 turnovers. You'll say 3. I got 5 on it. He says he wants 7 more. Bill says 3. Listen. 3 just sounds like a good number on the turnovers. Like if Vegas had a parlay to see how many turnovers Oklahoma gets, I would bet it's probably 3. That number for them is probably 3. Yes, Dez does have 2 years. Steven's calling his shot here. 6 turnovers, 3 fumbles, 3 picks. Billy gets pick 6. Yeah, Billy's got to get to work on those pick 6s because he needs to get at least 2 before the SEC play because he ain't getting all 3 in SEC play. If he does, he's definitely locked down for the Jim Thorpe Award. It's Layla says 4 turnovers. Bowman gets their first ints of the season and either 1 or 2 fumbles. Okay, so outside of that, looking at the game, I want to discuss who we want to see play in the Houston game and why. The first area that I think that we have to look at in terms of guys that we want to see play for Oklahoma is wide receiver. With the news that Jalil Farouk is out for 6 to 8 weeks, not 68, 6 to 8 weeks, you need somebody to replace him, which I believe Jalil Farouk was going to play a little bit of slot for you. Obviously, he's going to play a little bit on the outside. You probably want to see a lot of Jaquez Petaway. That was a guy that we were all really excited to see last year. I think we saw him a little bit. You saw him a little bit last week. Obviously, you heard Venables talk about how he was dealing with the hamstring injury. Petaway, you want to see go out there and ball. He's got track speed. The same thing for Zion Kearney. You want to see those 2 guys on the field for you in replacement of Farouk. The reason being is they've got the speed. They can be great outside wide receivers, and they can be great slot receivers for you. They can kind of do both. And you know what? I wouldn't be upset if BV and Emmett Jones wanted to split the time between those 2, kind of filling in for Farouk. Now, how do you replace Jaden Gibson? We talked about this before last week's game. JJ Hester is supposed to be the guy. And like you guys, it frustrated me last week. Now, I think you're going to see that probably cleaned up a little bit this week. JJ Hester will probably impress a lot of people. The reason being is he hadn't played in like 2 years, guys. So we kind of have to give him a break. We can't call him Butterfingers or anything like that because he hadn't played in 2 years. We got to give him some grace. Remember that word, grace, with some of these players, especially a guy on the offensive line. Remember the word grace. So I think we see a little bit more out of JJ Hester. If you don't, you want to see Ivan Carry-On. You want to see Ivan Carry-On do what he can do with his height. You might even want to see him a little bit more at the tight end position. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, you probably want to see a little bit more Lewis Carter involved into the linebacker action. Listen, you guys know how high I am on this guy. He can really lay a boom. I think they said he's one of the strongest guys in that locker room. You want to see a little bit more Lewis Carter. In the DB room, you want to see Eli Bowen, right? We have heard so much about Eli Bowen. That's who you want to see on the defensive side of the ball. You saw Jaden Jackson. You saw David Stone. Don't really need to see any more. You want to see Eli Bowen. And it would be really cool to see him and Peyton out there at the same time. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. Who knows? We might even see a little bit of Michael Patterson McDonald. All right. So jumping out of Oklahoma, let's jump into some of the games of the week. Guys, Oklahoma plays at 6:45. We get an opportunity to watch some good games before we have to go to Norman, or if you tailgate in Norman, you get to watch some good games. And the first one that I think we got to talk about is, of course, our rivals down south that we hate so much, Texas and Michigan. Boo. Now, we have to go play Michigan next year. I think we play them in Norman, and then in 26, we go to the Big House. Man, I really wish we could have gotten Michigan this year because the team, although their defense is really good, offense, guys, they don't look too pretty. Now, I think Texas loses this game, and I have a couple reasons why, and I think they're logical reasons, not just because I don't like Texas. The first one is it's the Big House. This is probably their biggest road game they've had. Like, Alabama was huge, but I think this one's bigger than Alabama. Because if you're Texas, you played Alabama recently. Like, you played them in the national championship. Like, you played them in DKR. When was the last time Texas played Michigan? Does anybody actually know? Not to mention, this isn't a historic stadium. And it holds, 103, 105,000 people? I think it's going to be loud. I think it's going to be rowdy. 11 a.m. kick. It's funny. Texas just can't escape the 11 a.m. kicks with Fox, can they? However, I do think this is going to be the downside of Fox, though, continuing to put big games at 11 o'clock and not trying to rival ESPN for that time slot at 7. I have my own theory on that. We can talk about that another day. Right now, Texas favored by 4 points. Guys, Michigan's going to win by 10. Calling it now. It ain't going to look pretty for Texas. If Texas loses this game, it's a bad loss. Texas is the better team. They should win. But knowing how Quinn Ewers is going to play against this defensive line for Michigan, yeah, it's not going to be good. We're all going to come back on Sunday. We're all going to be happy OU fans. Calling it. All right. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. So now that we don't, correct me in the chat. Now that we don't have Oklahoma State in our conference, we can somewhat root for them to be good, right? Like, we want them to be good now, right? Like, makes us look better, right? I don't know. All right. Oklahoma State and Arkansas. I think it's a very intriguing game. A couple reasons why. Oklahoma State looked very good last week. Obviously, Ollie Gordon has not lost his touch. Alan Bowman looks very good. Oklahoma State's wide receiver core looks good. Arkansas's got a lot of questions. I get it. It's true freshman, right? Or just a redshirt freshman. Their quarterback, he had himself a day. 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, new offensive coordinator out there. I think people at Arkansas are excited about the future. But, man, you're coming to Stillwater, guys. Coming to Stillwater. Now, it's an 11 o'clock game, so Oklahoma State, you can't get away from the 11 o'clock games either. It's going to be interesting to see how Arkansas is able to hold their own. You played Arkansas Pine Bluff last week. Like, you can't get too excited about that. Now, Oklahoma State played an FCS team too. So I think they're going to find out a lot about these teams this week. Oklahoma State's favored by 8.5. I'll take the Oklahoma State Cowboys to cover in this game. I actually think they win by I bet they win by 17 points. So 3 scores. 3 scores. However, I think that's technically 2.5 in my books because one of them is not a touchdown. But 3 scores, that's how they'd officially call it. Oklahoma State, I think they're going to do very well. All right. Whoa. Okay, hold on. Dominic. Okay. Hey, hold on. Why do you think Texas wins? Come on, jump in the chat. I need to know why you think Texas wins here. Because we've seen Texas have to play a defense. And here's the thing. Texas does not do well against teams that play more physical than them. Look at Oklahoma last year. They should have beat us in the Red River. They should have beat us. Oklahoma kind of let that game slip away, and then just by the clutch gene factor, took it from Texas. They do not play well against teams that try to out-physical them or do out-physical them. I think you're looking at Michigan's offense, but here's the other thing. A lot of teams did not look good in week 1. A lot of teams didn't look good in week 1. I think you're going to see probably Michigan roll out Alex Orji. Funny name. You're going to see Michigan run out Alex Orji a little bit this week. I think he's going to cause some problems for Texas. I think we find out a little bit of Texas's DB problems this week. I'm telling you, I don't think Horns fans are going to feel good about this game after it's played. I think they're excited for it. They're not going to. All right. This is going to be a surprise game for you all. This is going to be a surprise. And I want to start by saying this. This is a sold-out game. This is sold out. I just want everybody to realize that. When you see this game, it's sold out. We'll get it up here. Kansas and Illinois. It's sold out at Illinois. So, intriguing here because Jalen Daniels, we finally got to see him healthy last week. 9 of 15, 148 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Okay numbers against an inferior opponent, and I think they played Linwood, whatever you call them. Yeah, Kansas guys smashed the over here, smash it. Oh, Kansas is winning by 2 scores. I think this is a very intriguing game. I think it's awesome that this game is sold out because when was the last time you would have seen Illinois be sold out to play Kansas? Like, this is crazy. I will be watching this game while I'm in the stands. I will be watching it on my phone. This is going to be a fun matchup. One I cannot wait to see. All right. Next one up, we don't have to spend too long on Kansas and Illinois because there's really just nothing to talk about there. This is going to be an opponent for Oklahoma here in a couple weeks. Tennessee and NC State. I believe this game is, this one's at NC State. So Tennessee's having to go on the road. Before I give you guys my opinions and my take here, I want to hear what you guys think. And if you guys think, or no, just tell me who wins the game. Just tell me who wins the game. Y'all jump in the comments now while I get the next tab loaded up for the next game. I want to see if you all line up with me on the theory here. Like didn't see. Okay. All right. So I think Tennessee wins this game, but it's very ugly. And Tennessee's only favored by 4. NC State did not look good last week. But again, I go back to the fact a lot of teams didn't look good last week. Oregon almost had the biggest upset ever. Like, they almost lost to Idaho. Idaho, the home of the potato. Idaho. Nico, do we find out how good of a quarterback he really is in this game? Can NC State's secondary actually test Nico? That's what I think we're all watching. Unfortunately, this game's at the same time as ours. And I've got a bigger game than this one in Kansas versus Illinois that I'm going to have to be watching. But for Oklahoma, I think you're going to find out a lot about your opponent in this game. I think Tennessee would love to do what Oklahoma's doing and kind of hide their playbook a little bit, kind of hide some things from Oklahoma. They're not going to be able to do that in this game. NC State should challenge Tennessee well enough that they're going to have to open up their playbook a little bit, and Oklahoma should have a pretty good understanding of who they're playing when they come to Norman. All right, let's see here. Yes, Dominic, I like them to exploit some weaknesses. Garrett says NC State. Golden Age, you got Tennessee winning big. Tennessee wins, but NC State gives us valuable info. I agree there, Dominic. Bill says Tennessee. It's a hot take. NC State almost wins and forces it into OT by letting Hollywood Smothers take over. Yes, so been talking to him. He looks good. I'm excited for him out there. NC State, Tennessee wins in overtime. Okay. So my official prediction for this game would be Tennessee wins, NC State covers. So the line right now is at -4. That means probably Tennessee only wins by field goal. All right. Second to last game. We're about to wrap this show up because my wife and I are about to go get dinner. We're about to go to a place here in Yukon called the Flower Shop and get some pizza. So excited about that. If you guys have never been, you guys should totally go. All right. Boise State and Oregon. So last week, Oregon, they were given everything they wanted and more against Idaho. 24-14 victory. Dylan Gabriel had to throw 50 passes in that game. 50. That's not good. I think they say 41-49 on here. I don't think that's right. I think he threw about 50. The over-under in this game, 16.5. They got Oregon favored by 19.5. Does Oregon cover in this game, guys? A serious question. Does Oregon cover? Because last week, Oregon could not run the ball on Idaho. On Idaho, an FCS opponent. The home of the potato. Like, literally, like, I don't know. Like, is their mascot a potato? Mr. Potato Head? All right. We got some. All right. Oregon, but it's ugly again. Oregon, go DG. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for DG. As an Oklahoma fan, does it hurt our souls to have to be rooting for Oregon because DG's there? Boise State wins. Guys, okay, I think this is going to be a very close game. Oregon avoids the upset. Oregon, but Boise State covering. Oregon winning. Boise flat out. No. Okay, so here's the thing. For Boise to cover this game, very easy. I think it's a very easy thing to expect from them. I do think this game I think there's a good chance this game could go into overtime. I think Oregon wins, and I think it's a one-score game. I think Boise State, especially in their running game, they're going to test Oregon's defense. And I kind of wonder how Oregon's offensive line is going to hold up. They gave up almost as many sacks as they gave up last season. That's an impressive thing to do in week 1. That's an impressive thing to do. So Oregon by 1 score. So obviously Boise State to cover. They're going to make it close. We're going to be looking up. I think, is that game while we're in the stadium? Yes. Yeah, towards the end. We'll get to come home and watch that game. We will get to. Okay, hold on. We got to address something. If you have DirecTV, you better go find yourself a Buffalo Wild Wings. You better go to Chalk and Edmond, or just show up to Norman, buy a ticket, or go join a tailgate. Because if you got DirecTV, you ain't able to watch hardly any of these games. I think you can watch Fox Sports, and that's about it. Because DirecTV be out here playing people right at the beginning of the college football season, serving up a travesty, by the way. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's worse. Weddings in the fall or DirecTV not being able to negotiate their contract during the college football season. Yeah, or you can get YouTube TV like me and get the multi-stream with 4 games. And if you've got a computer, let me give you a little secret. If you got 3 monitors, you can have up to 12 games up at the same time. You just open it up on 3 different monitors. You can have up to 12 games up. Let me tell you, your ADD, your ADHD like mine, it's going to be working real well. It's going to be going overtime while you're watching it. Okay. Yeah, see, YouTube TV should hire me as a spokesperson for their multi-view, right? Okay. Last game. You guys know we talked a lot of Deion Sanders last year. I could not go the rest of this day without talking about Deion Sanders and how he's going to lose to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, if you're in Oklahoma, I think you have a very viable reason to root for Colorado in this game. You are competing against Nebraska for a 4-star top 100 linebacker in Christian Jones. And if Nebraska wins this game, I think Oklahoma probably loses Christian Jones. You can hate me for saying it, guys. I think it'll happen. Nebraska's improved. I went back and I watched their game against UTEP, and I was actually very impressed with Dylan Raiola. Like, he went out there, he made some really good throws. Now, I get it was against UTEP, but they're still a Division I football team, right? It's still Division I talent. I think the line right now, 7 for Nebraska. I take the over. I bet Nebraska's defense can slow down Colorado's offense enough to allow Nebraska to win by 2 scores, whether that's 10 to 14 points. If you're Oklahoma, are you guys excited to potentially see Nebraska back on the rise? Because this is actually something that I've been hoping that we were going to see for a long time. And I think Dylan Raiola is going to be the answer. Now, this weekend for Nebraska is a huge recruiting weekend. They have 5-star athlete Michael Terry, which, I mean, here's the deal. Would you rather lose Christian Jones to Nebraska so that Texas can lose Michael Terry to Nebraska? Or would you rather keep Christian Jones by Nebraska losing, but then have the potential of Texas winning the recruitment of 5-star athlete Michael Terry, who's going to play wide receiver? So at the same time where I think Nebraska could hurt you on the recruiting trail in this game, I think they could also help you out a little bit as you lose. Not to mention, Elijah Melendez is still available on the recruiting trail. And from what I've heard, Oklahoma actually might have a slim shot there. So if you're looking at this for Nebraska, you're watching the Dylan Raiola and Isaiah Nayor connection. I had no idea Isaiah Nayor was at Nebraska until I watched that game. So glad to see he's back on the field. If you guys remember, I think he tore his Achilles last year, or something like that. So it was great to see him back out there. Nebraska has a running game. This is going to be an extremely fun game if you're a college football fan, just to watch this game. I actually will be recording this so I can come back home and watch it on Sunday, because I want to see Nebraska schemes. I want to see how they match up in the trenches with Colorado. I think they're better defensively, way better, so they should be able to beat Colorado there. How does Jordan Seaton hold up against Nebraska? He was very good last week. Very good compared to the other offensive line at Colorado. All right. Lastly, it would be it would be a miss for me if I didn't talk a little bit of recruiting, although there's really nothing to talk about. But I guess we can talk about Andrew Babalola. Same thing, old same old. Auburn's really making a push there. That's the team that you need to watch out for. It's dark horse. I went through and I looked at it the other day, and I was telling Jay and Coop, Auburn could end up with the number 1 class. That is a very good possibility. They're about to flip the quarterback Deuce Knight from Notre Dame. I think he's probably doing some positive recruiting for Auburn in the meantime, and for Andrew Babalola. I think that's who he wants. I think they obviously probably are a package deal. Deuce Knight probably wants him in that class to be able to come to Auburn. I think Auburn's going to do what they need to get Andrew Babalola. So, not to mention, they're about to flip Naeem Offord, the 5-star corner. I think he's a top 10 player from Ohio State. So, if you're Oklahoma, let's just start betting that Andrew Babalola does not end up here. I do not feel the same with Andrew Babalola as I do as I did Michael Fasusi. And I think a lot of you guys are probably going to ask about, do we flip Lamont Rogers? At this point, my answer is going to be no. And the reason why is Texas A&M is doing all they can to flip him from Mizzou. And the big reason why is they don't have any elite tackles in their class. So at this point, I think Oklahoma, you're probably looking at Austin Pay as their last take on the offensive line, or somebody that they will take. That's a scholarship dude. But obviously that guy's not going to play until 2027. So not really worth talking about him a whole lot. All he's going to do is really help out your numbers this year in this class. Additionally, you got Christian Jones and Elias Melendez. We just talked about that. Some people have questions about Cortez Mills. Again, we'll talk about that if he actually takes a visit, based on what kind of visit is it, right? Is he going with the team? Is he going by himself? Like, I think there's a bunch of different variables and factors that play into that. He's supposed to be at Nebraska this week. I know some places are telling you he's not going to be. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen there. We're still waiting on a few defensive line offers. The biggest one that I'm watching is Joseph, and I believe his last name is pronounced Mabuchu. He's currently committed to the Florida Gators. He's been picking up offers from Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, Miami. Like, he's got offers from pretty much every elite school that you would look at for the defensive line. He's a 3-star kid, probably going to rise in the rankings a little bit, especially if he rises. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot in 2025. A couple of 2026 guys showing up this week. We will have a list for you guys on Friday. We're actually going to have a better in-depth review of OU versus Houston. We are bringing on Houston's Locked On dude. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Hopefully we'll have that up either late tomorrow night or probably Friday morning. So thank you all for tuning in. If you guys haven't and you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe button. You guys can also find this on the podcast platforms, Apple, Google, or Spotify. If you guys are subscribed here to YouTube and you're not subscribed over there, please make sure you go find me on the podcast platforms. Rate me 5 stars. Give me a good review. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you guys this week. But until next time, Boomer.